that you can't see, because you can find it homes is that you don't want to. You cope by putting the blinders on.
Things. But if you, the most loving thing you can do is to speak the truth, and to speak the truth in love, and to be honest. And if we're not willing to do that, even if it's really tough, even if we lose our job over it, if people in our family reject us for it, that is still the most loving thing to do, is to speak the truth. And God will make a way for those bridges to be rebuilt, and for that job to be restored, whatever it may be. So never stop speaking the truth in love, and God will make a way. I've seen it happen in my own life time and time again. Just another opportunity popped up for me, and it was all God. So where there's a difficult way, God sees a very easy way. So just trust Him.
With that, I think one of the big issues I see in the home is sometimes as mom and dad, especially as dad, I can only speak from my perspective, but dads want to fix things. And sometimes we ask questions, not with the intent to just listen, understand the heart of our child, but well, that happened. Then
it's good.
This, right?
Yeah.
And so sometimes we miss the opportunity to just understand and hear out our child, because we're so apt to want to fix things. And I think it's important to just, I always think of the quote, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And it's no different than with our children. But the cap back on this, you talk about those red flags. So how could a parent get involved if they see those red flags in their child's school? What are like the practical steps to get involved? So short of bringing it up and then pulling a kid out, do we run for school? School board? Do we run as a trustee? How do we advocate for the values that are important to us? Because I think that's the next step here, and I'll just call it the culture battle. Mm-hmm. But the next step here in the culture battle is to actually have people starting to, the first step is noticing what's going on, and then the next step is, well, we got to change that, which means getting involved. So how do we go about getting involved and advocating for the values that are important to us, and having those hard conversations, not just with our kids, but with parents and other people that are going to disagree vehemently with what we may have to say?
Yeah. So one of the best ways first is to find out who else in your kids' friend group, their parents, actually have the same beliefs, and band with them and come together to go to school board meetings. I know people kind of get turned off. They're not important, but they are super important. You have every right to show up at a school board meeting and advocate for your position, to bring up issues that you see within the school system, because that is a local action that you can take. And so often we get focused on, we see so many things. It's so unnatural, unhuman of how much information, negative information, information in general that we absorb nowadays. But if you can take a local action, that's going to be so impactful to both you and your community. So show up at those school board meetings, communicate directly with your child's school board trustee. I know individuals who are on various school boards, and they're just begging families, parents to just email, make one phone call to them, because they hear from the other side, who are very anti-family, anti any kind of traditional values in general. They're hearing from that side all the time, whether it's 2-3 emails a week. We have to just step it up, and we have to be willing to send those 2 or 3 emails. You, for example, you have a lot on your plate. You're a dad, you're working full time, you're a husband, on top of everything else you have in your life. Sending 1 email a week to your school board trustee or school board is incredibly impactful. Again, it's practical, it seems menial, but it is super important. And you can also advocate on social media. I know a lot of people don't like to do this, but it is an option nowadays. And providing a platform, even sharing other people's information about what's going on in your local school district, is super important. I know a couple of individuals who are in the Toronto school district whose children were told not to talk at lunchtime, or to be extremely quiet at lunchtime, because they didn't want to spread the virus. Well, that cuts down on a child's ability to have an opportunity to socialize with other kids. So what did they do? They called and they emailed, and they're advocating on behalf of their children. And kids need that. They can't advocate for themselves. Not every child is as brave as some of the ones that I've seen down south or out throughout Canada, who have taken it upon themselves, who are 7, 8, 12 years old, and go and speak at these school boards themselves. But they need parents. They need us, and concerned citizens, whether you have a child or not, you have every right. If your taxpayers are going towards something, you have every right to go and speak about it. So if you are just a concerned citizen, show up at school board meetings, send emails. If you have a concern, you have every right to voice that concern.
I think it's such a basic thing, but it's so true, because if we're not going to do the basic things, well, you're never going to get to the next step. If you're not going to even take the time to advocate on a basic level and voice your concerns, there's lots of other people on the opposite point of view that are voicing their opinions, and they're very vocal about them. And so it may seem menial. I think you're right about that, but I think it is very important. But I want to touch on one more thing here, is that recently you put up a tweet, and this is when I reached out to you, actually, was about God doesn't abandon his people. And I know you're a woman of faith. I don't talk about my faith very often, but I am a Christian, and I try my best to live my life in a way that would be pleasing to God. We want to talk about that personal story that you included in that tweet, and just, I guess, if we could leave with a message of hope, because there's a lot of people that are facing job losses right now, and all sorts of things, and maybe they don't have that family there that they can lean on right now. So what would you say to them, I guess, and would you touch a little bit on God not abandoning his people?
Absolutely. Well, that tweet that I did share, I've seen it time and time again, where a friend actually was losing their job, and about 2 hours before they were about to be fired, pulled into a meeting to be fired, they actually got another job offer for more money, more flexibility. They weren't going to be demoralized in their workplace anymore, nor were they going to ever face the threat of being fired for giving up their personal sovereignty, their right to bodily autonomy. And so 2 hours before that, they got another job offer, and God made a way. And then a week later, my other friend happened to, 45 minutes before she was going to get fired, she got another job offer. And it was, again, bigger and better than she could have ever imagined having. And I've heard these stories time and time again. People write into me still weekly. I just don't publish them on Twitter necessarily, but those stories continue to come through. And God does not give up on us. And when we put our full trust in him, he says, I can use that, and I'm going to use that. Even if you do get fired from your job. One of my friends works at a university, and he just got fired from his job for not taking the vax or disclosing, or wanting to go through with the mandatory weekly testing. Which actually, it was 3 times a week, which is kind of insane. But that aside, he just got another job, which he had no idea. It just came out of the blue. So when you continually put your trust in God, he takes that and he stores it, and he says, I'm going to use that. And it's not for nothing. Your stand is never for nothing. And whether you see the benefit of that stand here on earth, whether you see it or not, it's stored in heaven. And I think it's really cool that we get to live in this time, even because where there is persecution, and yes, this is absolutely persecution. We've seen 7 pastors in Canada thrown in prison for not shutting down their churches and obeying God and following their own convictions. When you do that, what do we see happening to these churches? There's exposure to more people to see the truth of the gospel. And we're also seeing these churches explode, and more people are coming to know Jesus. And so nothing is for naught. And so just keep standing. I love the saying, hold the line, because that's truly what we're doing. And I know a lot of people, I am a Christian. And so I know a lot of Christians who are pro-COVID mandates and other things. But if the most loving thing you can do is to speak the truth, and to speak the truth in love, and to be honest. And if we're not willing to do that, even if it's really tough, even if we lose our job over it, if people in our family reject us for it, that is still the most loving thing to do, is to speak the truth. And God will make a way for those bridges to be rebuilt, and for that job to be restored, whatever it may be. So never stop speaking the truth in love, and God will make a way. I've seen it happen in my own life time and time again. Just another opportunity popped up for me, and it was all God. So where there's a difficult way, God sees a very easy way. So just trust him.
That's amazing. I want to add to that, like, if I can. I posted this a while ago, October 29th. I just said, I don't know who needs to hear this right now. I know many are losing their jobs due to mandates, but Matthew 6:25-26. And it just says, therefore I tell you, do not worry about your life, what you will eat or drink, but worry about your body, what you will wear. Is not your life more than food, and the body more than clothes? Look at the birds of the air. They do not sow or reap or store away in barns, and yet your heavenly Father feeds them. Are you not much more valuable than they? Can any of you, by worrying, add a single hour to your life? I realize it's a really easy time to worry. Keep the main thing. We can only control what we can control, and the rest is God's. And I realize it's easy for me to say that, and there's probably, I know there's a lot of people that are going to watch this that don't have that faith in God, but I would still leave it at, there is no benefit from worrying, and we can only control what we control. Keep plugging away and keep your head up. And just thank you for joining us. Is there anything you would like to close with? Something that you think Canadians should know about, or something of your organization that you'd like to share?
Well, the one thing I always close out all my interviews with is something that I even tell my friends on a regular basis, and that is just live by conviction and teach your kids convictions, and don't live by a set of societal rules, because those come and go, those change. Cultural norms no longer are norms in 10, 15 years. So live by conviction. That's going to impact your family for generations, and even your present. And also a quote from Dietrich Bonhoeffer that I absolutely love, which is, silence in the face of evil is evil itself. God will not hold us blameless. Not to speak is to speak, and not to act is to act. So take those actions where you can, and speak at every opportunity.
It ain't that you can't see, because you can find it, homes, it's that you don't want to.